次のゲーム、ネオペッツ・ザ・ダーケスト・フェアリーになります。はい。司会進行、引き続き私、ゼロ吉が担当いたします。よろしくお願いします。ちょっとね、さっき喋ってたつもりがマイクミュートのままでした。すみません。
Well, geez, it feels like I just got here, but I guess we're already ready for Neopets, so go ahead and take it away, Jaxler. Let's see it.
で、こちらのゲームですね、ビットが設定されておりまして、グリッチエキシビジョンとなっております。こちらね、おそらく先ほどリップラッシュ中に達成されたようで、見れますので、皆さんお楽しみにということで、そうするとゲーム画面もね、来ましたので、間もなく始まるかと思います。私もちょっとこのゲームのことちょっと詳しくないので、創設さんの動画もちょっと初めの方しかちょっと見れてないので、なんか、実況の方がそんな感じになっちゃうと思いますが、よろしくお願いします。
You know, that probably just sounds like really weird, probably trash or something like that. This game is actually really, really awesome. The speedrun is not going to make it look like that. This is one of those rare games that the glitches, when you see them, will just make you laugh. I'm just going to prepare you for that in advance. But there have been a lot of people who have been working.
一応こちらの Any% の予定タイムが50分、グリッチエキシビジョンの予定タイムが20分となっております。ブラウザ上でゲームを遊びながらバーチャルペットを育てる。これなんか普通のなんか 3D アクションゲームっぽい感じでしたので、なんかそのネオペッツのスピンオフ的な感じなんでしょうかね。はい、カウントダウン始まって、ゲームスタート、グッドラックです。
Alright, so we're going to go ahead and load in here. This game has two different playable characters, but in our first act, we're just going to be playing as Tor. Tor is a melee weapons user. He uses a sword, and his dream is to become a knight.
今度は狼とか狐的な感じでしょうかね。
We're going to immediately start with a trick called Forced Escape, where I'm just going to jump backwards, grab that ledge, and we are now way out of bounds here.
おっと、なんだいきなり壁を抜けて床下床地面の下を潜っております。いやー、早速悪いことをしますね。さっきのウィップラッシュと違って、ちょっとのどかな雰囲気のゲームかと思いきや、結構長いこと歩きますね。
And so even though we're down really far out of bounds, we're going to be able to use this to control our height pretty creatively here. So I'm looking for a specific spot up here, and just right about now, you're going to see me upwarp right here, and just kind of instantly teleport.
こちらのゲームですが、今走ってジャクスラーさんが、41分25秒で世界1位の記録をお持ちでございます。
By doing what we did, I didn't even bother to explain it just because we were out of bounds so fast. But essentially, whenever I do one of these upwarps or go to specific spots out of bounds, essentially this game is broken up into different chunks of areas and tries to do that like seamless open world thing, no load screens. So the way that ends up happening behind the scenes is that there are these different thresholds that are marked out by the game that determine.
無を駆け抜ける時間がやたらと長い気がしますけど、おっと復帰したと思ったらまた。
It tells the game to load in an area called Shadowglen Woods. Now, Shadowglen Woods, we are not supposed to be here for quite a moment, not until we go into a place called Meridell Village, try to become like a squire, and then we're not allowed to become a squire, and then we have to go save our sister from Shadowglen Woods. But we can just sequence break in here by just teleporting up here. This wall doesn't exist, and we're back in bounds.
あれなんかいつの間にか、その都市世界に入ったのかなこれ。
And it's not for any particular main quest reason, but it's actually to grab this yellow flower. Now, this yellow flower is actually for a side quest, and that might seem like, oh, side quest, slow, right? No, it is going to be used to set up a very important glitch once we get into Meridell, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. As we're inbounds now, so this is kind of more so normal gameplay-ish. Something I'm going to be doing as I exit Shadowglen Woods is jumping into a cutscene, whenever you are jumping, just I can go into a little bit more wide.
このゲームさっき開幕早々壁を抜けて、もう走ってましたけど、これグリッチエキシビションで何やるんですかね、本当に。あれよりやばいものが多分あるんじゃないかと思うんですけども。
That's the first one. Got one more here. Nailed them both. First try. Let's go. All right.
あれ水に池に落ちたかと思ったら普通になんか歩いてますけど、なんか壁を抜け放題なんですが、いろいろ大丈夫ですかこれ。
Where you hold down the L2 combat strafe, and that allows you to run a little bit off the edge. And then if you let go of L2 and then the frame after press jump, for whatever reason you get a longer jump than what's normally intended, and that's the only way we can actually.
我々が壁とかというふうに認識しているもの、実は壁じゃないんですかねこれ。
And something I did as I was walking into the cutscene, and I'm actually still holding the button now, is I opened up the consumables menu, the quick select, and held down the square button while going into the cutscene. And this activates something called the text skip glitch. We're not exactly sure why this works, but when you set it up into a cutscene, and the cutscene pulls up text boxes, if you continue to hold square, it will skip them like every other frame. So just watch right here, for example. Right here. Boom.
なんかいきなり体当たりされて荷物が取られた。
So in this moment right here, we want to go on a shopping trip, but we can't do the shopping trip until
泥棒を追っかける感じですか。てか早っ。
So Conception, sorry. While we're on our way here, if you have time for one quick plug real quick before we get to some more nonsense.
これ追いつけなくないですかねこれ。
couple of new and important bid wars and incentives that we have going on. Namely, we have a rolling bid war for Super Mario.
この主人公の脚力では到底追いつけるとは思いませんけれども。
Between Luigi, Mario, Peach, and Toad, no matter what your donation is, whatever is in the lead, our runner is going to be the one using. So if it switches mid-run, you'll switch what.
さあ路地裏に追い詰めて。
Towards that, we also have a bid war open for the custom car skin in Hot Wheels World Race, as well as singing Pinky and the Brain song for Animaniacs. So get your donations in if you'd like to see any of those or have any input.
All right, so thank you, Conception. Right here, we're going to go ahead and turn in that yellow flower to Angus, who runs the potion shop. He's going to give us 500 Neo points, and then we're going to use that to buy a potion of Miracle Speed. We'll be
なんか買い物したんですかね。
later, but this is just going to
なんか急に足が速くなったけど、あ、それで追いつこうってこと？
set up a really interesting glitch here. So essentially, that text box that we saw at the end of the side quest, it has more than just text in it, or like.
薬でドーピングしたんでしょう
It
か。
also has something called a macro in it, and that is currently stored in the game's memory right now. And because the text box is so big, something really
なんかお
interesting.
金をもらっ
where
てるんですか？
The most recent text box you've read is stored into the game's memory, but all these text boxes that we're seeing right here are much smaller than the one that we saw on the side quest.
なんかすごいお金らしきものが増えまくってますけど。
Are still loaded into a dirty area of the game's RAM. And if I skip this text box in a very specific
なんかこう
way,
無限にカツアゲしてるみたいでなんかやばくないですかこれ。
past what's called the null terminator of the text box, which essentially denotes in the game's code where that text box like is finished having text in it. So it reads past that into the dirty area of memory, and because that dirty area of
なんか
memory
ガフマンさんがそんな
instruction to give us 500
ね
Neo
何
points,
をやってるんでしょうか。
essentially repeat
さっき500しかなかったのがなんか1万まで増えてます。
Now, I could essentially do that infinitely if
剣
I
を手に入れ
wanted
ま
to,
し
but
た。
we'll stop at 10,000 Neo points.
こんなヤバそうな主人公に剣持たせていいんでしょうか。
Sword and shield. In the tutorial segment, we actually completely skipped how we're intended to get our first weapon. So we go ahead and buy the Squire's sword, just so we have something to defeat enemies with throughout the course of the game. And on top of that, we're also going to grab a shield, and she makes a great sound as well. I don't know why she is so angry, but she is. And so the shield you actually need in order to defeat the final boss. It is a hard requirement. So even with those two upgrades, we still have like almost like 9,000 Neo points in terms of.
川に落ちてしまうとダメのようですね。
And you saw that potion we got earlier. Well, we're going to go buy 18 more of them. Those are potions of Miracle Speed, and they essentially double our running speed on the ground. And each one saves about 40 seconds in terms of movement. So all that money is going to immediately go to good use here. Going to mash the square button. And then we're going to equip the
さっ
potion
き
and
の
then leave the potion shot.
スピードアップする薬を
for the rest of the run.
買い込んでるのかな。
So now that we have potions and Mirka speed,
早いな本当に。
new pieces of equipment, we're going to go back to sequence breaking a bit. So what we're going to attempt to do, this game is broken into 4 different acts. Act 1 you play as Tor, Act 2 you play as Roberta, who will be meeting a little bit later. Then in Act 3 they meet back up in this overworld area that we're in, and then Act 4 you go to another place called Altador and do a bunch of endgame stuff there. So what we're trying to do with this sequence break is essentially get to a location that is meant for Act 3 while we're still in Act 1 so that we can get a main quest upgrade much earlier than intended. And in order to start that process, I have to go for a frame-perfect trick here. So this is not going to work. I'm just going to take a Drown Warp right here, and then I'm going to attempt the pause buffer this.
なんかポーズバッファって言ってます
There
が
we go. So I can use pauses to advance the
おっ
game warp
と
by 1 frame at a
水が
time.
ダメなのに
Or
普
the
通
single
に
strike on the
水の中を走っている。
And for whatever reason,
そして無を駆け抜けていく。
no plane part of the water and let us get out of bounds. Now, similar
まあ、
to
なんか
what we're doing
こ
at the start
う
of
う
the
まい
run,
タイミングで攻撃を出すと水に落ちても死亡判定にならない
in order
よう
to
です
trick the
ね。
game into loading different parts of the level. So what we're navigating around right now is a place called Kogum Steps, which is a place that you're not allowed access to until you become a squire, which is a pretty mid portion of Act 1. But I have to do a pretty tricky upwarp here in order to actually load the place I want to go, which is the Abandoned Mines, which is that Act 3 area I was talking about. Give me just 1 second. 1,000, go. Good, perfect, okay. So I upwarp on top of here. We're gonna wait until the effects come in and that spawns. Then if I touch that, that piece of collision will then trigger a giant black rectangle to appear, which that happens to be the Abandoned Mines, which is our goal. Gonna come across an invisible wall right here, and then I'm gonna nudge myself over here a little bit as a safety measure, because bad things can happen if you do that a little too fast. Then I'm gonna fall down here, jump, and we're back in bounds. There we go. So that whole sequence is really, really scary.
これまだね、世界記録が42分で、まだ10分なんですけど、これどうなんですか、これ。
So now we are in the Abandoned Mines, which means if we complete this portion, we can get a really important upgrade later. Which is why
なんか鉱山ステージですかね。トロッコが走ってますけど。
making more use of that potion of Mirka speed, and something that I'm doing, and I'll go into a bit more of this when I'm in Act 2. I'm currently using my combat strafe. Similar to Ocarina of Time, like the N64 Zelda games, there's a mechanic where if you run off of a ledge at a fast enough speed, the game will auto-jump in order to make the platforming easier. And we want to avoid that on little bumps in the road, because
まあ、剣と盾はまあさっきのグリッチ用なんですかね、今のところは。
set controlled speed. And so what I'm doing is holding the L2 combat strafe, which for that's
まあ、そりゃマグマに落ちたら死にますわ。
So that is an instant game over. So I'm going to
即死か、これ。
do that out of bounds sequence again. That's really unfortunate. For some reason, my jump height got snubbed for some reason.
どっからやり直しになるんだろう、これ。
That shouldn't take me too long to fix up here. So luckily, this is why we have backup saves. So this is one of those runs that, you know, it's a Neopets game, so you'd be like, oh,
セーブとか特にしてなかった気がするんですけど。
So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that setup again here. I'm going to fall in the river on purpose here because the pause buffer setup that I use doesn't really work the first time when you load it from this save. So I'm actually using a saved here that is...
ポーズバッファするところからですかね、さっきの。
We actually have, thanks to another runner of this game, Monster 860, she wrote a suite of practice tools for this game. And one of those tools allows you to save anywhere instead of save points. So that allows me to save a little bit of time for like a marathon showing such as this. So I'm going to be doing that out of bounds bit again. But since we're kind of, you know, repeating the same sort of stuff, Conception, this would be another great time for plugs if you got anything.
Oh, I always got something to talk about. You know me. I'd like to give a little bit of a shout out here to the Midwest Speedfest Discord server as well as Midwest Speedfest Twitter, which are both very active, especially during marathon times. It is actually the best way to interact with our community and stay up to date on our events. So feel free to type !Discord in the chat if you're in the Twitch chat, or you can check out the Twitch bio for the link. And you can also see announcements posted at Twitter, which is twitter.com/MWSpeedfest. And Marathon VODs can also be found on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Midwest Speedfest. Shout out to all the social media volunteers throughout this event as well. You all have been great.
Yeah, thank you all so much. While we're here as well, I also just want to shout out the crowd. I did not expect there to be this much of a turnout for a Neopets game.
まあね、さっきのゲームだったら、まあ、うさぎさんマグマに落ちても普通に生きてそうな感じですよね。
We've been doing some cool out of bounds stuff, but once we get out of the abandoned mines here, this is where the run really starts to snowball out of control. So I guess while we're here, I can talk a little bit more in depth about that combat strafing, or I'll just kind of like go over it again real quick because I kind of got interrupted by me being an idiot and falling into the lava. So there's that auto hop mechanic like I was saying, and this L2 button is like a combat strafe. So you can think of it as like Z targeting from like a modern Zelda game.
今度はマグマに落ちずにちゃんとやれるだろうか。
And I don't know why it is, but it disables that auto hop mechanic. So you'll see how I kind of just like randomly jumped even though there was nothing there. That's because like how the auto hopping works in this game is actually a little bit buggy with how it was executed. But all right, we got past the lava, so now we're going into the boss fight here. This is Ess Chieftain. We're going to be attempting to do a stun lock here, thanks to our new sword and shield, using a technique called shield canceling. We're going to be starting off the fight with a 3-hit combo.
お、なんかボス敵が出てきました。
After performing the combo, oh, that's unlucky. So sometimes Ess Chieftain will go right.
溶岩に落とせないのかな。
So if I hold down the shield, oh, can you cooperate, please? There we go. So if you
普通に戦って倒しました。
Oh, I appreciate it. That was a little rough. It normally doesn't go that bad, but I got a really rare pattern there where you essentially clank with a bit of geometry on the floor.
お、なんか誰かが捕まってますね。
I got a decent chunk of it. Essentially, if you do a 3-hit combo and then pull up your shield, it cancels some of that follow-through animation on the end of the attack. And so what that does is allows you to start up your next combo a bit faster, and that's actually too little of time for normally the Ess Chieftain to be able to retaliate, which allows us to completely stun lock it. Now this right here is really funny. In this main quest, you're supposed to save all of the villagers, but if you just save the mayor, you're just done with the quest and everyone just magically reappears in the village. No idea why. But yeah, no, anyone at home can do that. It's really funny. So yeah, we're gonna pop another potion of Mirka speed here, and so now we have done what we needed to do to finish the Act 3 portion of saving Kog'M Village. You come here in both Act 1
やっぱこれすごい速いモーションで走るのじわじわ来るんですよねこれ。
And so doing this in Act 3, like Act 1, will still give us the reward, and it's going to be very. This is pretty far out of our way. You know, we're several minutes out of our way here, even though we could be progressing the rest of the game. But you'll see. You'll see. I don't want to spoil what it is quite yet, but the upgrade we're going to be getting is very, very, very powerful for the speedrun here. So again, going into this cutscene because it's a cutscene that spawns text boxes. I can open the consumables menu, hold down the square button, and it's going to let me rapid fire skip through the text. So now that this is in casual play, this is the second time we saved the village. We are the hero of this village, and now we are going to get rewarded handsomely for our trouble.
これさっき助けた
So what do we get for this? A potato sack. Yeah, so we get a potato sack, right? But this isn't any ordinary potato sack. This is a magical potato sack, and it's going to let all of our hopes and dreams come true here.
バチバチしてるエフェクターが残ったまま会話してるのがもうすごいな。
So what it's actually supposed to do is it's supposed to be used as a disguise to get into Meridell Castle in Act 3. But it has a very broken ability to generate a ton of lag. Because whenever you equip or de-equip the cloak, it changes your character model.
ちょっと途中で挟まるロードが若干テンポは悪いなって気はしますが。
Because it's loading a lot of information. And so I can use that lag to do this. Whee!
飛んだ。
So that's a mega jump. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm using
落ちましたけど。
to be able to jump and then pause buffer at the same time. So essentially the frame after I decloak, I jump and then pause. And then when I unpause,
まあなんかポーズバッファとか使ってなんかうまいことやるそうですね。
or in a running animation. And that allows me to actually do another jump during that brief window. And it stacks the momentum of the two jumps together, giving me like this ridiculously high jump. And that let me clear over the bridge and get me back into the normal area of play. All right, so now that we like have all of our broken tools available to us, we're going to go sequence break to the end of Act 1. There's normally this whole giant main quest where you learn how to become a knight, You get permission from your parents to become a knight. You do a bunch of squire-related tasks and missions. It's a pretty arduous process, but we're going to be skipping pretty much all of that. I'm going to intentionally fall into the river in order to put me at a closer point to my destination, which happens to be Illison's Glade. We also pick up the water moat there, which we won't be using until Act 3, but it's going to be very important eventually. And so now we're going to go into what many people would call the signature trick or signature glitch of this game, which is called ledge flying. And so what we're going to do is we're going to walk up to the very edge of this platform here. And then if I do this sequence of inputs
なん
properly,
か位
magic
置
will
調
happen.
整をして、
So that is the correct glitch, but I got the wrong angle.
なんか
So ledge flying is essentially the
飛
same
ぼう
thing
として
as
ま
a
したね、
jump,
今。
but instead of buffering a second jump, you're essentially
どうも
combining
崖つかまり
with
を
the ledge
悪
grab,
用するっ
which
ぽい
allows
で
you
す
to
が、
continue the ledge grab animation with your jump momentum, and that sends you flying. And so this glitch has a couple of other properties, such as giving you no clip, so we are through that wall.
すごい。崖つかまりのモーションで
We'll
ス
go
ー
into
ッ
a bit
と。
more depth in a moment on
あー、
how
また壁抜けて
ledge
る。
flights are achieved and like some of their properties depending on positioning. But I don't have time because we're going to be doing another broken glitch here. So we're using this out of bounds to get into Illison's
ま
Glade.
たね、さっき無を走っ
And
て、
then we're also going to be skipping the quest where we save the knights here by doing that, and then that. And for whatever reason, those platforms are just close enough to the out of bounds that we can actually perform the upward glitch on them. And that lets us get all the way to the top of the treetops here without having to save any of the knights.
ちょっとここで、ゲームの途中ですけれども、司会進行の交代の時間となりました。ここまで、ゼロ吉が担当させていただきました。どうもありがとうございました。引き続き MS、WF、2022、よろしくお願いします。それでは。
Having the higher speed can actually impact like where you have to stand, and I don't really know the setup for this, so we're just gonna wait for that to turn off. Good. I'm gonna jump, grab this ledge, and then I'm gonna poke my sword a couple of times here just to put myself at the perfect distance. Circle, hold forward, hold jump, and the run button, and now I'm gonna start floating into the air. And so what this is going to do, hopefully if I don't get sniped, because that can happen, of course, is this will float me all the way into the cutscene trigger for the boss fight. And let us skip all the rest of the intended movement. So I actually got kind of a low angle here. So I have to go ahead and manually walk into the cutscene trigger, but that's
は
essentially
い、
what you
こ
want
こ
to
からちょっと視界が変わりまして、私、ハイフン M が担当いたします。
have safety save for.
よろしくお願いいたしま
So
す。
this is Narfus. Narfus will either explode instantly or take
ということで、
We'll see which version we get of him. So
現在のゲーム、ネオペッツ・ザ・ダーケスト・フェアリー。それなりにいい時間になってきていますが、
Nope, he's not going to cooperate. All right, so we're going to go into this cutscene here. Essentially, what I'm trying to do is if I do like sword slashes in a specific way, it's a little inconsistent, but you can essentially do multi-hits on him. And it's, again, it's not super consistent. We don't have amazing setups for it at the moment, but it allows you to absolutely crush his health bar, but we'll just do it the normal way. That's fine too. It's a
プレ
pretty
ステ
straightforward
2か。
boss. You just want to block
2005年プレステ2の頃の作品みたいですね。
Then going into this cutscene, I'm going to set up the text skip glitch again. Then skip this cutscene with
パブリッシュドバイソニーコンピューターエンターテインメント。
cutscene. The menu will persist.
SC 製か。
Where the text skip glitch will work. So now that we've defeated that boss, that activated a crucial flag in the
ちょっ
game's
と
memory
大きい。
to allow us to proceed
ちょっと下げてきます。
because this is like the last thing that you do before you're like, oh crap, things have gone south pretty bad. We need to go back to Mirador Castle. So we're gonna go ahead and do that in a bit of a roundabout way. Ooh, nice strike negs.
ちょっと下げました。
こん
なんかな。
The cutscene for whatever reason stops our ledge flying from working. So if I pick up a new item for the first time, it corrects itself for some strange reason. We don't really understand why. Gonna do another ledge fly here at this corner, which is gonna clip me into this wall, and then I can jump, and that's gonna get me the rest of the way out of bounds here. So in Act 1,
すいません、さっき見てなかったんで、なんかさっきも、壁抜けてるチャットがあるなって思ったけど、見事に壁抜けたな。さてさて。ツイート。
Luckily for us, we have a way of, for lack of a better term, wrong warping into Mirador Castle. And so what we can actually do is load in a a load transition for getting into Marital Castle that was originally intended to be a part of Act 3, but was never implemented into the final game. But its properties and like hitbox are all still there. So I'm gonna walk a tightrope between two loading planes so that I can deload Meridel Village. So we're walking through an unloaded Meridel Village right now. And then what I'm gonna do is once I get into the proper position, I'm gonna do an up warp to start the process of loading in Meridel Village.
すいません、さっきまでの解説とかを私は見てないんであれなんですが、なんか明らかに走ってるポーズが、なんか倍速かかってるような感じになっている。
Use my potion of Mirka speed buff in order to sprint right to it. And then when you see that water plane in the background disappear like that, I'm going to go ahead and pause. And then the game's going to take like forever to load here. Then I can equip my cloak, decloak, and I have magically appeared inside the castle. Oh, I got the fast version too. So if you do that right, you actually spawned in, clipped inside the wall, and that saves 5 seconds. That's actually really hard to do. So I got a little bit lucky there. Actually, it was pretty nice. All right, so doesn't stop there though.
3D アクション系おなじみのとりあえず抜けたりと飛んだりするやつですね。はいはい。
This one's a little bit annoying sometimes because the bed really wasn't meant to be interacted with in this way, but you can if you ask it nicely. I'm being a little bit aggressive here, so let me give this. Come on, game. I do not know. Tor is being a little bit cranky right now, so give me a couple of tries here. I promise this is cool. There we go. And so for whatever reason, the y equals 0 plane.
はいはいはい。
Save your applause for the next one.
また口浮遊してるよ。
So the y equals 0 plane for this level is actually way above the first floor, so we can teleport on top of the first floor and then fall into the cutscene trigger. Now this is arguably one of, if not the hardest ledgeflies to perform in the entire game. This is the Ottoman Ledgefly. If I do this properly, this will let me skip the entire collapse sequence, but I actually popped a potion of Mirka speed when I didn't mean to. So this is going to make my life incredibly miserable. Oh, this setup actually looks perfect. Oh, yeah, so that's why this is miserable. So there are 3, like, evil dark fairy sisters that are trying to, like, kill me. And if they're too close, Tor will do that and pull up the shield, and this becomes an absolute nightmare to deal with. So give this a couple more tries. This looks good. Hold on a second. Come on. We got it. Let's go. Okay. Yeah, so the more time that takes, the more it snowballs out of control. And the reason why that's so hard is because you need a straight angle ledgefly to make that work. And the way that you get a perfectly horizontal ledgefly is by being on the tippy edge of whatever surface you're trying to ledgefly off of, which is really hard because the Ottoman is tiny. On top of that,
ちゃんとメカニズムを説明してくれているのはなんとなくわかります。わかりますが。
Then you actually hit that desk on the side, which is one of the few
主人公
things
変わ
that
った
isn't a floor that can actually interrupt a ledgefly. So you have a very narrow frame in order to fit that ledgefly in. So I'm really glad that I got that eventually. Because there's a non-zero chance I could have died there if I let that go on any longer. So we have now successfully made it to Act 2. This is where we get introduced to Roberta. She, in terms of the game's lore, she is the niece of the King of Brightvale, and she is a sorceress in training. Being pushed into being a diplomat, but she really wants to be a sorceress as her profession. So unfortunately, she left her wand at home.
今のテクニックどっちかというと、なんか話しかけながらちょっと移動するっていうタイプ。でもまあさっきと比べるとすごい平和になりましたね。RT 的には平和になりました。
Tor still has the cloak, the magical potato sack with him, but Roberta doesn't get that until we meet the 2 characters up at the end of Act 2/start of Act 3. So this entire segment, even though it's a little bit lengthy, like completely zeroes in on the movement. So, for example, you'll get to see like a really good example of how fast the text can get skipped through here. Otherwise, I would have to just mash through all of this, and it's like really, really slow. Another thing to note is that because Roberta is, of royal descent, she actually starts with some money in her pocket. So that will allow us to buy 2 potions of Mirka speed at the start here, and which is really crucial because we don't have any of the money that Tor has duplicated by robbing that town's guard infinitely, like we did at the beginning of Act 1. So we're gonna pick up
この後グリッチエキシビジョンというコーナーが用意されているくらいなんで相当グリッチがいろいろあるんだろうなというのはスケジュールから雰囲気ではわかるという。
save your cat from the tree, but that's just a mere suggestion. We don't actually have to save the cat. I'm not kidding. Like, she's like, please help me, and you just don't have to. You just don't. Anyway, so we're gonna be going down the stairs here, grabbing one more reagent as well as a light mote. You've been seeing me pick up a bunch of different element motes throughout the game, but I haven't really been using too many of them yet. There is one puzzle at the end of Act 4 that requires that we hit switches with a weapon of each element's mote. And so we're going to make sure that we have at least one copy of each mote by the time that we get to that puzzle so that we don't have to find backups later on here. All right, so now that we have all three pieces of the wand, we're going to give them to our mentor Saradar here in order to reconstruct that one, and then he's going to teach us how to do combat. The nice thing about this combat tutorial is it's the same every time. So if I know what the inputs are going to be, I can do the required attack and then set up the text skip glitch while I'm waiting for the next line of dialogue.
もはや画面に映してくれ。画面に映してくれ。敵を。
Fire mode here for this part of the tutorial, and then set up the text skip glitch. We also get a free armor upgrade for no reason. I don't know why they give us this armor.
処理打ちみたいなことを防ぐために画面外の敵を画面外のまま撃つっていうあれなんですかね。
There we go. So we're gonna pop our first potion of America Speed here. This is an interesting like case in the speedrun where this is pretty much like.
これがさっきコメントでおっしゃってた高速移動ポーション。
Like the difference in skill level between someone who is new to the speedrun and someone who has a lot of experience with this game is how well they're able to control their combat strafe.
ポーションごと完全に2倍速になるのはなかなか見ないパターンだな。でもあととても悪いことができそうな雰囲気だな。これだけ見てると本当これだけで悪いことしてるように見える。
So what I'm doing a lot again is holding down that L2 combat strafe button, but it's not just as simple as that. Because normally when you hold down the L2 combat strafe, if you move to the left or right in L2 combat strafe, you pivot, and if you try to turn with the camera, that like pause that you saw happen where I'm held still and it just pivots me in place. So in order to actually be able to like do that sort of diagonal strafing, I'm making use of a technique that we call Ess Position, which we kind of stole the name of from N64 Zeldas. But essentially I'm holding up and then very slightly left or right, just like barely outside where the dead zone on the controller would.
さっき魔法のスケッティみたいなものを持ってファイアウォール打ってましたけど、この子は魔法で戦うタイプなんですかね。今のところさっき以外の場面で戦う場面が見られないが。
And that's how I'm able to move around. But it's a pretty tight angle on the control stick that you have to hold. And there's a bit of a technique to how you move around in this state as well, because your turning speed is a bit different. There's a bit of a wind up to like your turning acceleration. It's kind of like driving a whole different vehicle here. So it takes a little bit of practice to get, and the best runners are really able to make the most use out of this in order to skip as many auto hops as possible. All right, so we're going into a clock tower puzzle here. Essentially, the Darkest Faerie is trying to take over Fairyland, spoilers, and we are trying to make a distraction so that we can escape her minions. So we are going to go ahead and do some very aggressive grunting. So what I'm doing here is rotating between up and up left or right.
ちゃんと着地際に受け身を取ってたのかなあれは。落下ダメージあるんですかね。で、これは天秤とかではなくて単純な仕掛けかな。
Oh, we almost crushed the Noel down there. I would have had to reset if that happened. Luckily, he's fine. That Noel is what's called a pet.
なんか1マス押すたびに声出してましたね。
We love him. So yeah, we're gonna do a little bit more aggressive grunting, and then we're gonna do one more through here, and then after I
こんなにでかいのに押せるのか。これこの子が怪力なのか。
Yeah, this is going to be a bit of another running segment. I'll pop another speed potion through here in a bit, but Conception, this will be another great time if you'd like to fit any more messages in.
Absolutely. We got some love for you here in the donation comments. So we have $2 from Ashlyn. I think I've heard of her. Who says, "Hi, Jaxler. This game is so cute. It's inspired me to go and visit my Neopets. I was obsessed growing up and still play it from time to time. I'll also have to buy this game. What are your favorite Neopets? Mine were always Jub Jub and Kugra. Thanks, bye."
Thank you so much. And yes, please pick up a copy of this game. I didn't mean that to come across that aggressively, but this game is so cool. Like, I love this game so much. And like, the whole reason I really love like running and playing games from this era is they tried like a lot of. This comes from a really interesting era of 3D game development, where the visual technology was there for people to execute upon a lot of different like types of gameplay concepts, but the rules and like the norms of 3D game design weren't completely put in place yet because it was still a period of experimentation. So you have a lot
じゃあこのゲーム
of
熱くしてるな、奏者さん
where。they try like all this like really cool off the wall stuff because they just had the license to do that. So like in this game, for example, you have like the real emphasis on open world exploration and this moat magic system, which I've never seen in another game like this. You know, so yeah, please play this game. Anyway, to answer the other part of the question, I was always a fan of loops growing up and Akara a little bit, I guess, but I'm kind of biased because I honestly played this game a lot.
そろそろ何か起こしそうな気がするんだけど、どうなんだろう。何か起こしそう。
box copy, you will get a limited edition hollow card, Neopets TCG
なんか
card of
一瞬だけ敵が映ってたりするんですけど、あれ何なんだろうな。
So this is the endless staircase puzzle. The way that this puzzle is supposed to play out.
速さが速すぎて敵が追いついてこれてないのか、描画が間に合ってないのか。そう、4章まであるのに2章。なるほど。
Then you can double back and forth pretty much immediately and skip a bunch of cycles of going up and down the stairs.
嫌な予感しかしない。
By that section really quickly. And so we'll see that one more time because we will be doubling back through here at the end of Act 3, but that is the end of Act 2. And so now we're going to have Tor and Roberta meet up. Yo, why are you clapping for that? That was a running segment. No, I'm just kidding. I really appreciate the support, everybody. I'm just being goofy.
ここから3章ですかね。ってことはまた主人公が変わる？変わった。戻ってきた。抜けたり飛んだりする方に戻ってきた。
So you're going to see I teleport right here, and then I have to do a bit of a backup adjustment where I'm just going to, my camera, just jump.
金に捕まって空を飛ぶのか、斬新だな。
And then we can just jump the rest of the way through, and that gets us through the wall. So I actually got that Ledgefly first try. That's another one of those Ledgeflies where it's like the longer that it takes, the more that the enemies can hack you. So, all right, right here we're gonna do another one of those mega jumps. Okay, so I actually did not. I thought I did it up properly. Give me a second.
大ジャンプが
So
で
what
き
I'm
る。
doing here is I'm interrupting a jump with a ledge grab in order to essentially put my gravity value at a third of its normal. So I get a massive jump right there. I actually
そうか、
didn't get
空中浮遊するだけでは高さは超えられないから、
because my gravity was not set up.
高度を稼ぐのか。
Pretty much got no height off of it. So now we're horrendously out of bounds again. And so Act 3 is like by far my favorite part of the game. You get to go to all these cool different locales. The game pretty much like completely opens up to you at that point. And there's all these cool locations you can go to, all these bosses to fight, all these quests to do. And the tragic thing
なんかこういう
is where Act 1 ends is where Act 3 ends. And if you
3D オープンワールドっぽいゲームで、なんだろう、この壁抜けてマップの下に行くと床があるゲームとないゲームありますよね。見えない床があるゲームとないゲーム。このゲームはあるけど、ないゲームもたまに。てかこのゲームもどうなんだろう。これはたまにこの空中で突然段差を下るような動きをしてるから別のマップを読み込んでるとかそういうとこなのかな。下に何かがある。私はあんまり 3D ゲームのバグとかに別に詳しくないんであれなんですが、なかなかそういう壁抜けた後の崖下がどうなってるかみたいなところは割とゲームによって特色出そうですね。なんかいつ目かループして下にまた同じ世界が広がってるみたいなゲームもありますし。
Did I actually get it? Nope, not quite. Almost had it. But yeah, so now we've wrong-word back in, but once we're inside Meridell Castle, this is where things get very different. This is one of my favorite parts of the run because we're going to do some more shenanigans here that are not related to our cloak here. Well, except for this part, which,
剣をしまった。
you know, we need the cloak to do this bit. So what I'm
さ
going
て
to do here is I'm going to grab this ledge, and that puts me at the perfect distance to get the perfect angle ledge fly. So that sets me down right on the other side of this wall, and then I can upwarp all the way up here. And then this chamber up here, I'm going to go ahead and hit a loading zone trigger here just for
あー
later.
なるほどね。床、確かにそっか。床置いてからオブジェクト置くって発想なら絶対床あるけど、オブジェクト置いた後って、もう置いた後床に必要ないだろうというか忘れ去られてる可能性は結構ありますね。ありそうですね。
And the reason why they're just letting us wail on them here is because we did not go through all the proper
なんかめっちゃ弾かれてその音するけどガリガリ削れてる。
in order for their AI to activate. So we're just
あとなんで動かないの？
And unfortunately, because their AI is broken at the moment,
これはそういう敵なの？
their death animations won't actually play. So the best that we can do at the moment is just bring them down to 1 HP. And that's
何か悪いことをして敵の動きを止めている説。
because we are really undergeared at this point, and by bringing them down to 1 HP, it makes the fight a lot safer because we can essentially one-tap them with Roberta's makeshift wand.
お
So right here, I'm going to do a bit of a tricky strat called a nice displacement angle ledge fly. Essentially, you're holding one angle for the ledge fly and then changing it to another midway through in order to displace the angle that you get sent at, which allows you to do a ledge fly off of that Ottoman, and that makes it way more consistent. So right here, I'm going to make use of that water moat and do a charged R2 attack. That has the property of making a giant ring of frost around you, and you can use that to freeze enemies in place. And these minion warriors went down really, really quick. Those enemies are obnoxious. They have like some of the best defense in any game I've ever seen. So now we're going to do the 3-hit
多分フラグかなんかが立たないから倒さざるを得ないのかな、そこは。でも壁とかは別に全然抜けられるから抜けていくと。
And that lets me keep them stun locked. You also saw me do like the quickest menu in the West right there. What you do when you're menuing for moats in this game with the quick select is you put on the moat that you want, and then you go ahead and like put the cursor over a moat that you know you're going to select a bit later. So that way the next time you're equipping moats, all you have to do is just open the moat menu, press the circle button, and then you're good.
ここに来て結構戦闘が続いてますが、なんか敷居が結構厄介だな。柱のせいで見通しが悪いし、その割に敵が結構早い。早い。
Wrong moats. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that after we get through this cutscene. So there's going to be like 3 or 4 different cutscenes that are all going to play here in a row because we did things so out of order that it's just like, I am frightened.
あ、動き出した。さっきのあれは塩だったのか？痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い。いや。
Yeah, so you see how like much damage that I took there? That's why we do the cheese strat. You can get like insta-gib there if you're not careful. So I'm going to be doing a wall clip here. A slight sensitivity warning because the screen will shake a little bit, so just a quick warning, but it'll be over in a moment. So here comes
手にはさっきのステッキを持ってますが、何も見なかった。何も見なかった。いいね。
It's a lot easier if you were under the influence of a potion of Mirka's speed. So that's why we don't really do anything.
今なんか抜けた気がするけど何も見なかったことにしましょう。
But we're going to make our way back through the endless staircase, and we basically do a bit of a running segment and then a button switch puzzle in order to get into Act 4, in which more chaos will continue to ensue. So, Conception, this would be another great time for messages if you got anything.
For sure. We had a $10 donation come through from Monster860 who said, Hi Jaxler, I'm so proud of you for learning that.
いや、まさかこんな可愛い子が壁抜けをするなんてね。
Good luck with your run. Thank you so much. So Monster, she is actually another speedrunner of this game. She wrote all the practice tools for this game, has done extensive work, like decompiling and modding the game so that we can understand as much of it as possible. and she is responsible for shaving off at least, I want to say 20 to 30 minutes or more off of like the speed run. No, more than that, maybe like 40 at this point. She has done a lot of incredible work for this community. So I'll say this again at the end of the run, but huge shout outs to Monster. And Monster also giving a little bit of spoilers for some of the stuff
さ
I'm
て、そろそろいい時間になってきましたが、
when I was streaming the other night to learn
クイーン・フィオ
something
ラ
new I'm going to attempt to show off during the glitch exhibition
いけないの
this
か。
run, but we're almost towards the end of the run. So we are now going into Act 4. There's going to be a lot of
いやー、
FMV cutscenes that we're
最
going to
終
be
章。
skipping. And this is
さっ
where
きの
the
2人が
crew
揃っ
here
て、
really
揃っ
starts to
て、
save time. We're going to
あ、
save literal
交
hours
代
of
できるようになってますかね。
gameplay here.
右上。
So Act 4 is this really sprawling world of Altador, which I think got implemented into the website like after this
Oh.
game dropped. But we're gonna just do a
Oh.
little it's a really cool place, but unfortunately the elevator to exit and get towards the end of Act 4 is just right there.
見たことない服を着たと思ったら、また剣で空中浮遊で壁を抜けていた。
Four different districts in Altador, and you know, take care of all the monsters in there. There's like a park district, a financial district, combat district, or something like that. I don't remember.
あ、これは床を抜けたいですね。エレベーターが遅すぎる。
So that's cool. So that was the last Ledgefly of the run. This is going to be the last mega jump of the run. You can do a Ledgefly here, but a mega jump is way, way safer. So what I'm going to do is a
で、
mega
メガジャンプという単語がさっきから聞こえているけど、
which doesn't have any collision, and then if I pivot to the left midair,
そこ抜けられるんかーい。
the bridge down here, which lets me completely skip. Jesus Christ! Completely skip a series of puzzles that you're supposed to do. So we're doing that elemental switch puzzle that I was alluding to earlier. I'm doing some really cool movement through here where I'm essentially menuing and moving and attacking all at the same time. And I can accomplish that by using the quick select while using the R2 button to attack, because if I were to use my circle button to attack, it would just equip a mote. So you have to use basically a single swipe or like an instant like swing of your charge attack in order to get that to work. So
このロードするときに完全に固まるし、配信で見ると怖いな。なんか配信に問題が起きてるように見えてしまうのが怖い。
the darkest of fairies, the darkest fairy. I don't know if she has a first name, but she is the darkest fairy.
で、そろそろラスボス的存在が出てきてもいいはずなんだけど、
This is where we need the shield in order to beat the game, because in Tor's phase, the way that this works is that she's going to shoot an elemental projectile at us, and we have to reflect it back at her, and we can only reflect it back with a shield with the properly aligned mode. But luckily for us, those rainbow motes, the stars, the nova and supernova motes, are super effective against every
なんか割とラスボスでよくありそうなラスボスの敵の攻撃を跳ね返して攻撃するというパターンがあっち。しかも変わる。おうおう。
And that's the boss fight. That's it.
お
That's
お
just, no, it's just
早い。
that straightforward
いや、
in casual.
まだなんかある？
We think that there was some more like gameplay to that there was supposed to be there, but eventually got cut due to budget cuts and time restraints and stuff like that. But we're at the end of the game actually. So we got this cutscene right here, and then we're gonna skip this FMV, and then time is going to be. We're gonna call time as soon as it starts to fade to black. So get ready on time. Time.
はい。ということで GG でした。
All right. What was my final time?
We
Oh.
owe you many.
さて、
46. Okay, not bad.
Because of you,
That's not bad.
この後このゲームのグリッチエキシビジョンということでね、
the most pernicious
とりあえず何か解説してくれるんだろうな。よ、おそらく。多分、maybe。
Don't worry.
So
She's been
other
pleased
than that,
somewhere
I
we
played
can
pretty
feel
well. So I'm pretty happy with how that went. So this is a great cutscene as well.
というわけで、
That's what happens to the darkest fairy now.
空中浮遊できて壁も抜けられる伝説の剣が主に大活躍して46分で世界を救われましたということでね。
So that's
めでたしめでたし。
everybody. I hope you enjoyed the
はい。
any% portion
と、
of this showcase.
で、ここからもういきなりグリッチエキシビジョンになるのかな。
And raised a whole lot of heckin' money for children's cancer fund. I can't remember the name. I'm so sorry. But because
はい、すいません。このままじゃあちょっと画面とかが切り替わらなかったので、このままちょっと続けます。
skip the credits right here. I'm going to turn off my PS2 and then boot it back up. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of start going and rolling right into that, actually, if that's totally fine. Cool.
のし、
We're probably running behind, so I'm sure they appreciate this. But I'm going to go ahead and turn on the practice tool for this game. So you can see Monster 860. She's the one who actually wrote this. I'm using an older version, so she's probably
ダーケストフェアリーハック。ハック。
But
あ、
what this is going to do is this
何
is
か
gonna-
を
when I
GitHub
run
か
the
ら
game with this,
DL して何をしようというの
it's
か、
actually going to
何をしようというの
soft
か
launch
ね。
the game in order to give it a whole bunch of different range of practice functionality and stuff like that. So things like an entire extra 100 pages of save files, the ability to load into any area of the game via its hexadecimal value in the game's code.